Everybody, we are finishing this whole thing up. It's going to be amazing and awesome. Last time we went through basically talking about individual species dynamics, how an individual species groups itself, how they're able to disperse their gametes, how they're able to spread out. But we really focused on a single species and what that one species was doing. Today, we're going to get a lot bigger. We're going to talk about communities, how different species interact with each other. And eventually, we're going to talk about how all those different organisms interact with each other, and they interact with the abiotic matter, the non-living matter that sort of makes up that whole biosphere. So, communities. Let's see if I can get the door without killing myself. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I made it. All right, communities. Species live in complex communities. You have different populations interacting with each other, different populations of different species. So here we can see, I guess I've sort of, just blacked out the zebra, so you couldn't see that the lion killed the zebra. But you see lots of different species interacting. We've got the zebra that would eat the grass. You've got the lion that eats the zebra. You've got scavengers coming in. Interesting story about lions. Everyone's got this idea that lions are sort of top-tier predators. They are the things that do the killing out in the savannah. Truth is, it looks like the more we learn about the communities out in the savannah, the more we see that it's actually the hyena that does the takedown, and lions just come in and scare them off. So you got these sort of big bully lions coming in and stealing the food from the poor hyenas that worked really hard to take it down. We didn't know that for the longest time because all that happened at night. And all we'd see is in the morning, there's the lion standing over the kill. So we thought, lion took down zebra. Nope, it was hyenas. Now, there are a whole bunch of ways that species can interact with each other, that they can form these relationships. We've got interactions like competition, predation, herbivory, parasitism, mutualism, and commensalism. We're going to talk about all of those on their own slides, so don't worry about sketching it down real quick. So first off, competition. Competition is where you have an interaction between two different species where they are, get this, competing for the same resources. Let's think. You know, I know some of you guys have siblings, yeah? Did you ever basically hide food from your siblings so you could eat it? Yeah, of course, because you want to make sure to get the good food. Let me tell you about competition in my family. I came from a family where there were 5 of us, and pork chops came in a set of 6. All right, so what do? In that situation, there's a few things you can do. One is you can have parents who took that last pork chop and divided it equally among everybody and sent it out. Or you have parents that encourage you to fight for it, right? Well, somebody's going to get that last one. So what ended up happening is my sisters and I had to compete for the last pork chop. How did we do that? First one who finished eating got to eat the last pork chop. What did that encourage in all of us? Eating really quick. You come to my house, you know, these family meals are done in 15 minutes, tops. Because of that, I passed it on to my kids. They eat way faster than any of their friends. It's kind of weird to them that their friends are eating while they're sitting there finished and ready to move on to the next thing. Competition. In species, we talked about the lions and the hyenas, right? They're competing for the same resource. The resource was that one stupid zebra. You have a limited resource, so they have to fight for the same resource. That's competition. Now, competition will lead to selection, selecting for certain resources over others. One species, as we learned way at the beginning of the course, might be better at acquiring those resources than another species. Here we see 2 birds fighting over bread. Which one's going to win? Sure, the pigeon, because pigeons are mean. You do not mess with pigeons. They will kill you. Pigeon's bigger, it's got more strength, it's going to win this fight. In the end, that bigger, broader pigeon will be able to have more resources, be able to take care of its offspring more, maybe even produce more offspring, leading to its alleles being passed one generation to the next. So competition, again, as we learned earlier, is a motivator of selection. When you have different species interacting in different ways, they do end up finding a balance. And we're going to see that a lot, balance. We saw that balance with carrying capacity in the last set of lectures. You can have two species surviving together if there's resource partitioning. One species focuses on one part of the resource, another species will focus on an entirely different piece. Lions, hyenas, and those buzzards, right? The lions and the hyenas may be competing directly for the meat of that zebra, but the buzzards are going for the bone marrow. Lions can't get to the bone marrow. Hyenas can't get to the bone marrow, but buzzards can. They literally, if you watch, sorry, it just blows my mind whenever I think about this. They will grab a bone and chuck it down their throat. They sort of do this like, this is my puppet show, right? They grab the bone and do this whole like, thing, and it goes down their throat, and they digest bones to get the marrow. Lions don't do that. They're using different parts of the same resource. Here we can see a tree. This is like a Christmas tree. I drew this myself, in case you couldn't tell. Different birds can use different parts of the same tree. In this case, the Blackburnian warbler uses only the outside edge. It's not competing with any other bird for that outside edge. The black-throated green warbler, in green, is only using this sort of close to the top section but not the very tip, whereas the Cape May warbler uses the very tip. They are not interacting with each other. They're using the exact same resource. So they can share that range. There's no competition there. That's resource partitioning. Because of resource partitioning, you could have two species in the exact same region that look extraordinarily different. That's so they can get different resources. Here we have two distinct woodpeckers. One of them has a really narrow bill. That's because the resource they're trying to get is in the wood. So they're the ones that wake you up in the mornings. This other woodpecker doesn't peck the wood as much. It's picking the bugs off the top of the wood. So you have one woodpecker who's evolved to drill into the wood, getting resources from a place that the other woodpecker cannot get those resources. So they can exist in harmony. They're not fighting with each other. You can have two species that look alike, not too much alike, I'm sorry, two closely related species that look different in the exact same region. Another type of way species can interact is through exploitation. And this is going to be the primary means by which organisms interact. All non-photosynthetic organisms. What does it mean to be photosynthetic? Yeah. Right, you get energy from the sun. Anything that's not photosynthetic is going to exploit other organisms. That is, one organism will benefit at the expense of another. How do you exploit organisms? You eat them. If you don't eat other organisms, you die. Exploitation. You are interacting with that other species. In the process, they lose, you win. One type of exploitation is predation. This is a type of exploitation because the one organism surviving, the other is dying. One benefits, the other, you get the energy from that organism that you eat. Whales are all carnivores. Surprise. There was a weird test question on the SOL a few years ago that I freaked out about. I had called the governor's office about it. Because I don't know why I was so offended by it, but it said that whales were herbivores. And I was like, no, you can't teach these 4th or 4th graders that. That's ridiculous. How are they going to grow to know that whales are carnivores? All these whales are doing is they're coming up. If you've ever seen what whales do in order to hunt, is they've got some tactics where they swim underneath a school of fish, blowing bubbles out their blowholes. And that freaks the fish out, so the fish begin to school. And then the whale comes right up through the middle with a wide open mouth like that, gathers up all the fish, and then closes its mouth. Then it strains water out its mouth. You see it's got these flaps along its neck that are really expanded and pushes all that water out, leaving delicious fish on the inside. Now that being said, you should not have to worry about a whale swallowing you. You would kill a whale if it ended up swallowing you. It's got a throat the size of a beach ball. Basically, you would clog it up. Right? No, yeah, like this, you couldn't fit through that. Okay, look, if you really tried, maybe, you'd have to do like the whole like, sort of like luge thing through it. You'd live inside a whale? Yeah. Not for long. Predators have all sorts of adaptations to get their prey. You might have claws, fangs, poison. All of these help them sort of kill and devour their prey. At the same time, the prey adapt to the predators, and that's that Red Queen hypothesis again. Run as fast as you can to stay in the same spot. So prey have some cool things where they have this cryptic coloration. They can synthesize toxins, aposematic coloration, and Petition mimicry. I'm going to go through a few of these because they're kind of cool. Cryptic coloration. This is where you hide in plain sight. You match your texture and colors to your environment. Okay, so you can see right here, that is the, it's endemic to the James River. It's the Roanoke hogsucker. Yeah, hides under rocks. This was a big issue recently in Virginia because what happens is this organism may live under the same group of rocks its entire life. And for a little while, and it might still be happening, there's a trend where people would go out to like parks and just pick up rocks and make like stacks of rocks. Well, that ended up destroying this organism's habitat that only lives in this 2-mile square or 2-mile stretch of river. Here's a flounder. It's flat, sort of broken up coloration so that it can hide along the surface. And then here is I think it's a bearded lizard. I don't know if you can see it very well, but basically here's the body, here's the head, there's an arm, another one, back, all the way to the tip of its tail here. Hard to see. That's cryptic coloration. The flip side of that's aposematic coloration. This is where the organism says, hi, I'm dangerous, don't mess with me. This gives warning to other things that they're poisonous or dangerous. So, poison dart frog. You eat a poison dart frog, you die. You kind of rub a poison dart frog on you. You either die or you trip like crazy. Yeah. I forget what kind of snake that is. I don't think it's a corn snake. It might be a corn snake. Is it a corn snake that's the poisonous one? Corn snake's not the poisonous one. What's the other one? It might be a coral. Okay, look. Bright colors, right? Bright colors, dangerous snake. Sometimes. Not all the time. All right, okay. Forget the snake. This, what is it? Skunk. Skunk dangerous? It will make you smell so bad. Anybody ever had their dog attacked by a skunk? Yeah, it's not nice. Skunks have scent glands. They're not afraid to use them. Most organisms avoid them like crazy. Then we have Petition mimicry. Petition mimicry occurs when a toxic species tries to, a less toxic species tries to look like a toxic species. Basically, it's riding on the coattails of a toxic species. Here we have two types of butterflies. If you look at a monarch butterfly, which is poisonous, compared to a monarch mimic, the birds will avoid eating the monarch mimic simply because it looks like it might be poisonous. It doesn't look tasty. You may see this in normal human life. Any of you guys have a security system at your house? Some people do. If you have a security system at your house, usually you display in like the window or the front yard or something that says like, this says a security system, or whatever's watched by the security. Why would you put, if you have a security system, why would you put it in your yard that, hey, look, I have a security system?
So that nobody tries to break into your home.
Right, you don't actually want them to break into your house. And then the hope is that criminals will avoid your house and attack your neighbor's house. All right? So how would you, human, be a Petition mimic? You just get a sign that says, protected by whatever company. Do you actually have to have your house protected? No, you're benefiting from the predator's misconception. It says, okay, well, there's a security system there. It says so on the sign. Security system's there. It says so on the sign. There's not really one there, but it doesn't know that. Go to the next house. So there we go. We've got aposematic coloration, which is check me out, I'm dangerous. We've got cryptic coloration, which is don't check me out, I'm not here. I'm a rock. And then we've got Petition mimicry, which is somebody else is dangerous and I look like them. Another type of exploitation, herbivory. It's not predation because plants aren't really going anywhere. But basically, herbivory is where herbivores eat the plants and that harms the plants. You've got different types of herbivores, whether you've got insects or mammals. Now, these plants are in fact telling other plants, put on your defenses. Most often, deer will eat plants that are upwind of the plants they were just eating. They constantly move toward the wind. And they do that because plants, when they're being attacked, are going to release chemicals that trigger other plants to turn on their defenses, turn on their poisons, turn on their irritants, and so on. So in order to avoid that, you just move in the opposite direction of the wind. Telemarker can listen to the rest of the lecture. So we've got herbivory. Another type of, and this is what I was talking about. So plants will emit what are called secondary metabolites. These secondary metabolites will break down and produce effects in other organisms. These are chemicals that aren't needed for survival but kind of help. I told you guys my squirrel story, right? Yeah. What I was extracting were secondary metabolites. They help the organism survive. In that case, what are they called? Peppers, for instance. They're hot because organisms don't want to eat hot peppers. Freaking poison ivy. The poison of poison ivy is a secondary metabolite that triggers an irritation in herbivores, so that it's not eaten. Many herbivores have special equipment on them to detect toxicity. It's oftentimes the nose. Here we can see the nose of a mole. Lots and lots and lots of chemical receptors in their noses or even in their feet that are going to help them understand the world around them, what toxins are present and what they should and shouldn't eat. Another type of exploitation is called parasitism. This is where one species exploits another by surviving off it without killing it. So this isn't like predation where you kill it and eat it. This is where you keep it alive and eat it very, very, very slowly. Mosquitoes are a parasite. They land on you, they suck your blood, but they don't kill you. At least that's not the goal. You're not swarmed by mosquitoes until all your blood is gone. This is I want to say it's tomato hornworm. But what you'll notice is it's covered in these white larvae. Have you guys ever seen one of these? They're big, fat, caterpillar-looking things. Basically, what happens is a wasp lands on it and lays its eggs inside the caterpillar. Over time, the eggs hatch inside the caterpillar and begin to eat it from the inside out, very slowly. As they finish growing, the larva will burst out the sides of the caterpillar, similar to, did you guys ever use Play-Doh when you were younger? Like, did you ever see like the hair thing on Play-Doh where you squish it and then stuff comes out? That's what it looks like when these larvae emerge. They pop out the sides, they grab onto the caterpillar. The caterpillar's still alive at this point. In fact, due to some secondary metabolites from the wasp, the caterpillar begins to treat the larva as if they were its own offspring, even though they're devouring it. Eventually, the larva spins a cocoon that it would have spun around itself to protect the larva, and then it will spend the rest of its life defending the larva, not eating anything like that anymore, until it dies of malnutrition. That's parasitism. We talked about endoparasites. And you guys said never talk about this again, so I'll give you one slide on it. They live inside the host. The flip side of that would be ectoparasites. Ectoparasites live on the outside of the host, like a tick or a lice. Another type of way species interact is through mutualism. Mutualism is an interaction in which both species will benefit. We've got a few different ones of these on the picture. One, hummingbird and flowers. The hummingbird takes nectar from the flowers and gets nutrients. The flower gets pollinated. You've got the clownfish and the anemone. The clownfish cleans the anemone. The anemone and so the anemone is cleaned. The clownfish has a place to live where it's safe because nothing messes with the anemone. Then we have a sloth. Sloth is a fun creature. It moves very slowly. The sloth has growing in its fur algae. The sloth will climb to the top of a tree and sit in the sun. The algae gets to make sugar. As a benefit, the sloth will lick the algae to get food. So basically, the algae is continuing to grow. The sloth is getting a free meal. We have commensalism. Commensalism is an interaction where one species benefits, but the other one's not really harmed. Textbook example is the remora that lives on a shark. Or not on, with sharks. You always see these little fish hanging out with sharks, right? Shark doesn't care. Sharks just sort of hang out. Those little fish are going to end up eating the scraps that the shark drops. So the shark's not losing anything. And that fish gains. That's commensalism. So there we go. Species can interact in all sorts of ways. Sometimes both one species or another is harmed. Sometimes they work together peacefully. Questions or concerns?